Cryptocurrencies are going mainstream. Crypto wallets are selling out. So just how high could Bitcoin go? Like Bitcoin XBT, we now have Ether trading on the Nasdaq Stockholm exchange. And while we have so much contention around SegWit2x for Bitcoin, China banning cryptocurrencies, and JP Morgan Chase not necessarily saying the same thing throughout all parts of their organization, Goldman Sachs may be signaling they're ready to get into the Bitcoin and blockchain space. And despite how some news is given, Vladimir Putin is beyond passionately fond of crypto, demanding central banks and regulators to not create unnecessary barriers to cryptocurrency in mainstream Russia. So with all of this news across the world, how do we define blockchain? Who defines blockchain? And will you be involved in the conversation moving forward? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are minting coins. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of the show. I really appreciate everyone's comments, who's been reaching out and connecting with me, who is just showing excitement and interest with being part of the Minting Coins community at mintingcoins.com. Just to recap, if you want to be part of the Minting Coins community, feel free to visit us at mintingcoins.com. Make a membership, and then if you're part of some of the early members of Minting Coins, we're going to waive that yearly membership fee or the monthly membership fee or whatever that is. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us through the website, and we'll get that going just to continue the dialogue, continue all of us learning about Bitcoin blockchain technology together, and do it on a platform where people will have more access to each other, more access to information without a lot of the negative effects that we see from the open communities on YouTube and Facebook and places like that. So with that being said, there's a lot going on in the space. There's a lot going on in the world of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And without any further ado, let's jump into the market, take a review what's going on, take a peek at the news, and then let's discuss. So starting over here at coinmarketcap.com, we have a world with over 1,157 different cryptocurrencies and a market capitalization still about where it was yesterday, $154.3 billion. We have a 24-hour trading volume, a little bit lower than we were seeing, $2.9 billion in the past 24 hours. And the Bitcoin BTC dominance down just slightly, but still over that 50% mark at 51.6% for the Bitcoin BTC. Overall, in the past 24 hours, we have Bitcoin down slightly at $79.7 billion, current price $4,797, and people are just going crazy about the Bitcoin Gold, and everything that means for their existing holdings. Additional free money if you are already holding Bitcoin, maybe not free money if you were selling all of your altcoins at a loss to get Bitcoin in time for this fork. I think personally you're going to have a really difficult time jumping back and forth before everybody else who has the automated programs, the trading bots, the inside connections. But now might be a great time to purchase some of these altcoins. We see there is a huge jump with the OMG token, 15.5% up in the past 24 hours as their CEO over at OMG started tweeting up and really talking about what's going on behind the scenes in terms of his excitement and the future development of where OMG and OMG Go are going to be going, I suppose. Lisk up 15%. Let's see, anything super exciting here? Salt up 24% after being down for the week. Yeah, so interesting what's going on. It's the same as we were seeing before with just Bitcoin swelling up And I'm expecting to see a lot of Bitcoin. While the Bitcoin price increasing for this Bitcoin gold fork, I'm expecting to see a lot of this new money come into the space and really flood into a lot of these altcoins that are at huge discounts from where they've been historically over the past 6 months or so. So a part of us seeing what's going on and us paying attention to the space, there is a screenshot that we have of Amazon showing how the Ledger Nano S is the 9th best seller on Amazon's computers and accessories category in the Amazon store. And so just popping this over, make it a little bit smaller here. Number 9, you know, right up here with these different tablets and different routers, screens, protection plan. Number 9 right here with 4 stars, 124 ratings. We have the Ledger Nano S. Now, personally, we're bigger fans of the Trezor, simply because the Trezor is 100% open source, and it's our position that if the technology is 100% open source, then it's going to help add to the security of that technology. The Ledger Nano S is still a great hardware wallet and very, very popular, as we see here on Amazon. So if you're paying attention to the news, there's so many outlets, so many articles that are getting posted today in the past couple of days talking about the potential of just how high Bitcoin can go for people who aren't normally paying attention to Bitcoin inside the Bitcoin space. And on CNBC's Fast Money, we have a hedge fund manager who says that Bitcoin BTC will soar to over $10,000 in the next 6 to 10 months. And so we saw Bitcoin rise this time last year, and over the course of the first quarter and the second quarter in 2017. And so this guy is essentially saying that it's going to increase, it's going to follow that same pattern of increasing to $10,000 over this quarter and quarter 4 of 2017, Q1 2018, and Q2 of 2018. So the first half of 2018, this guy's expecting us to see some major gains. And this is particularly interesting because this is a hedge fund legend who has been very successful in the traditional Wall Street space. But also what's interesting is that we're seeing this information being shown on CNBC, which is just in front of the mainstream people, the mainstream audience, for them to get a clue to see what's going on. But what they might not see going on is some of this manipulation in the market that we were talking about yesterday with some of these interesting data points that we're seeing in exchanges like Bittrex. Which is, the main exchange that most people use, especially if you're in New York or the United States. Most people, I would say, probably use Bittrex for a lot of these altcoins and even, main Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin trading. And here in this chart, we see a 24-hour volume and increase going significantly up from about, $330, $340. $4,330 to about $4,340, and jumping up very rapidly within an hour, significantly to $4,429. So the amount of volume to happen, and we can see this volume chart with the amount of volume popping in over here. When was this? Sometime in the afternoon, late afternoon. Of this October 7th, and so today's the 11th, just a massive amount of money had to go into the Bitcoin space to jump this price. And so it just makes you wonder, with the increasing in prices, with the inflation of the market cap overall, with the amount of money coming into the space, and seeing these hedge fund managers talk about how high Bitcoin can go, for things to happen this quickly and this dramatically, there's definitely going to be a lot of whales in the space. And so if you guys are watching this, you just got to know that the prices are going to increase. The prices are going to increase dramatically. And the prices can and probably will decrease just as dramatically. Overall, moving forward, the Bitcoin has one direction, and that's up. The total amount of Bitcoin is limited to 21 million Bitcoins. We're not going to be alive to see all those Bitcoins minted. But the demand of Bitcoin is also going to go up. And as the demand goes up and the supply decreases, we know that the value of Bitcoin is going to increase. But what I'm trying to point out here is that with these hedge fund managers talking about Bitcoin, with the mainstream media starting to talk about Bitcoin, with all of these whales that are putting millions and millions of dollars into Bitcoin, they're going to have the potential to pull their money out just as easily as they put their money in. And that's going to cause huge swings of volatility inside the cryptocurrency space for Bitcoin, for Ethereum Classic, for Litecoin. And if you're an average user, as long as you don't sell when the prices are way down and then lose your position, then you might be okay. But in terms of the news and in terms of the day traders, there's going to be huge swings. Like, we're just guessing there's going to be huge swings. And so none of this is trading advice or investment advice. This is just pointing out what we're seeing in the markets and how there's huge risk going forward for anyone who's just trying to make money buying and selling and trying to time the market. By and large, is going to be a losing endeavor, especially as more and more cryptocurrency investment vehicles are created, especially as more and more whales are created, especially as there's more and more ways for the market to manipulate the price of Bitcoin. Hopefully long term, that will decrease as more average people have access to Bitcoin. But right now, there are so many whales in the space that I really hope that people who I care about, that their strategy is a long-term strategy, as opposed to, getting caught in this bloodshed that people are going to see when, as the price goes up, they're going to get excited and then it's going to crash. And all the newbies to the space aren't going to know what's going to happen. We're going to have to show them what happened in 2017, what happened in 2016, what happened every year since Bitcoin was created, with these prices moving upward and then being corrected through the major forces inside the space. And so here at Cointelegraph, we have Goldman Sachs, they say they're not trading Bitcoin yet, but they're still interested in trading Bitcoin. And so if we're hearing that Goldman Sachs is thinking about trading Bitcoin and they're interested in trading Bitcoin, likely, I would think that this means that they're already way down that rabbit hole. And they are simply seeking to solidify their personal positions and their corporate processes, their procedures, their people in place before the cat is completely out of the bag for their intentions, their business plan, their positions that would then cause a financial cryptocurrency arms race for every other bank in the space, for every other hedge fund manager in the space, of which there's plenty of them who are still seeing Bitcoin as a Ponzi scheme. Once Goldman Sachs jumps in, then that's going to flip a lot of these people who are on the fence. And when Goldman Sachs, who's a powerhouse of a company, not just a company, but a global banking institution, they're going to be first in position. They're going to be the top of this network, the top of this, pyramid structure, if you will, where all these other banks are going to follow in with Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs is going to have the technology for these other banks, these other institutions to use, which will just, definitely turn out well for Goldman Sachs as they collect all the fees that they get from their position. And so their CEO's quote here from Twitter is still thinking about Bitcoin, no conclusion, not endorsing, rejecting, knowing that folks also were skeptical when paper money replaced gold. So that is way more of a bullish statement, way more of a positive statement about Bitcoin. I would say as positive as you could possibly get being the CEO of a global investment bank. So they're still thinking about Bitcoin, no conclusion. So right there, that's not a condemnation. He's saying that he's not endorsing it, protecting his constituents at a global institutional banking level, but not rejecting it, which is hedging his position of not endorsing it, and protecting his pivot as he pivots the company in the future. And where's the future of this new industry going? It's going toward the blockchain technology. And but the second part here, know that folks were skeptical when paper money replaced gold. Well, that was a positive case of paper money doing a great job replacing gold. And so that leads us to believe that perhaps Bitcoin will do a great job replacing paper money. This still remains to be seen. As we saw from yesterday's video, we think it's really likely we're going to see some sort of global cryptocurrency try to take the place of Bitcoin from a centralized sort of perspective, with then different countries being able to issue their own local or regional cryptocurrencies that would connect in this network. We're definitely more interested in the decentralized technology of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even though there's a lot of questions about side chains and sub chains of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's probably overall a better bet than these distributed ledger technologies that are controlled by just a few people or centralized organizations. So speaking of these different organizations, and these organizations creating all these new investment vehicles that are allowing them to control and manipulate the price of cryptocurrencies, either now or in the future, we've been seeing in other videos and other news how there's futures trading in the works for Bitcoin and Ethereum, so people can purchase cryptocurrencies based on a future price, or to buy or sell based on a future price. And then there's also different sort of ETFs that we've been talking about, these exchange traded funds. Well, in this case, what we have is Ethereum First Investment Products opens for trading on the Nasdaq exchange. And so what we have here is a first of its kind investment product open to investors on the Nasdaq Stockholm exchange, which is good for most institutional investors and large hedge funds and whatnot. They don't need to be based in America. This just cuts out specifically more Americans because it's not regulated here, or it's too regulated here in America that it's not available to Americans, and that's a major problem for America. And we're going to see later on in the news that Vladimir Putin in Russia is going to be taking advantage of how much regulation is happening in the world, and how they're going to be directing that attention toward Russia, taking advantage of America's missteps of over-regulation in America. And so anyway, this Ethereum ETN is on the Nasdaq Stockholm exchange, and this is going to be controlled by CoinShares. And so CoinShares is headed by the former JP Morgan Chase trader Daniel Masters. And what this is that CoinShares is doing is an exchange traded note, an ETN. An ETN for Ether, Ether being the token on the Ethereum blockchain. And so this ETN is very similar to an ETF, an exchange traded fund. The exchange traded note is very similar to an exchange traded fund, except that instead of giving investors access to a basket of different assets that are all put together into one fund, it generally gives investors exposure to just a single asset. So instead of having them to buy an ETF that has a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ether, a little bit of Ethereum Classic or whatnot, all put together, it's just Ether. So if you've been involved in a Bitcoin and blockchain space, maybe this sounds ridiculous to you, because why would you purchase an ETN of Ether when you can just purchase Ether, right? And so that's just giving these centralized authorities power. It's you giving up your power to let them control your private keys. The only case this makes sense is when there's rules where, say you have a 401k and your 401k has to go into a regulated sort of investment vehicle. Maybe you can put that 401k money into the cryptocurrency space using a cryptocurrency ETF or a cryptocurrency ETN in the future. But by and large, it just is counterproductive, it's counterintuitive, and it's totally continuing the backwards thinking and the backwards nature of people having control of their own private keys. So I hope you understand that. Let me know if you have any questions about controlling your own private keys and how this sort of sounds ridiculous. except if you have that 401k money and you want to focus that 401k money on Bitcoin ETF or ETN instead of you know, stocks or something like that. So this announcement is notable given that XBT is wholly owned by CoinShares, and XBT has a substantial position in Bitcoin, about 48,451 BTC, which is worth over $250 million in today's prices. So it's a staggering amount of money. And so that $250 million can easily become 2.5 billion if Bitcoin 10x's, or 25 billion if Bitcoin 100x's, which over the next 10 years, you know, some of these experts are saying that's absolutely possible. You know, it definitely puts the average goal of having just one Bitcoin into perspective. You know, when you think about that, one Bitcoin is 4,000 and you're hoping at moons at $1 million, and these guys have, you know, 10,000 or 50,000 Bitcoins. You know, if Bitcoin was each $1 million, it's just staggering. So this article goes on to say that with the ETN details, the prices between the ETN and the underlying coins, the underlying tokens, will be about 99% correlation. And so the fact that it's going to be a 99% correlation is really, really interesting, because the price of the notes and the Ether may not be the same at all times. Because the ETNs are based on a derivative product, right? It's not actually Ether, it's a derivative product of Ether. Again, you know, maybe hold your own private keys is the best way of going about this, the whole blockchain space thing. And then at a quick side note, this ETN doesn't have any leverage. You know, there's different platforms that investors may be able to use to apply leverage, but these ETNs themselves aren't going to have leverage. And then another thing is, we talked about earlier, that this is only in Europe, right? Why is this only in Europe? This is only in Europe because there's so much regulation happening in America. There's so much regulation that's happening in practically every country in the world around Bitcoin, Ethereum, different blockchain technologies, cryptocurrencies, tokens, let it be that they are securities or not securities. There's so much you know, uncertainty and confusion that it's slowing down what businesses are doing, what traditional companies are doing, the access that the citizens of America or these other countries have access to. And it's just a very, very unfortunate situation that this exists there and just can't exist other places, allowing those folks to take advantage of that situation, but not allowing the other people in the world to take advantage of this permissionless, borderless, secure technology that people can trust without having to rely on you know, a third party, a centralized party securing their network, or having malicious intent. And so pivoting with malicious intent, you know, there's this interesting article on our Bitcoin post. It's not a big deal to say I was wrong. Sticking with what's wrong when you know what's right is a big deal. And so, you know, a lot of people just really questioning what's happening with the NYA agreement, what's happening with the SegWit2x, wondering why the SegWit2x doesn't have the replay protection, and why it's consolidating so much of the power for the SegWit2x version of Bitcoin. It's definitely suspect, and people continue to have a lot of concerns, recommending that you run your own node, that you start looking into running your own node, and supporting the companies that are supporting the version of Bitcoin that you support. Let that be that you support BTC, or you know, BTC Core, or you know, the core version, the version that I would say the majority of the community is behind, or if you support the SegWit2x version. You know, so you have people like Jihan Wu, Roger Ver, who supported the Bitcoin Cash, and now you have the same people supporting the 2x, and yeah, it's just really sort of confusing, you know, what's happening. And I guess I always look at, you know, what people have to gain from the chaos that's happening inside the space. And so who's creating the chaos and who's benefiting from the chaos is always an interesting way to look at that. And so pivoting from there, we have this Xapo blog about the Bitcoin SegWit2x update. And this is just talking about how they're going to handle this, and talking about that pretty much that they want to call the 2x version the chain with the most accumulated difficulty, Bitcoin or BTC, which, you know, the chain with the most accumulated difficulty may be the SegWit2x version, because that is, you know, may have the majority of miners, because the miners in Bitcoin are really centralized. It's one of the biggest problems that Bitcoin has, is that it's controlled by the miners, and we can't make some updates without getting the miners on board, because they have so much in terms of the percentage of processing power of Bitcoin. And so if they're behind the SegWit2x because of their centralized reasons, then that SegWit2x is going to have the majority of the accumulated difficulty. And then Xapo is one of the companies that's saying that because of that, they're going to call the SegWit2x version of Bitcoin the Bitcoin BTC version, calling the opposite chain, if this was the opposite chain in this case was the Bitcoin Core, then they would call that that version, that 1 megabyte version, BC1 instead of BTC. And so this is really about dominance of the Bitcoin name, dominance of the Bitcoin brand, dominance of the Bitcoin ticker symbol BTC, the word Bitcoin and the word BTC. It's really critical. You know, if this rose was called by anything, by any other name, would it smell just as sweet? Unfortunately, you'd have to explain to people what, you know, that the rose is still a rose, and that's just not cost effective in terms of the disruption it would cause. And so this is the way that we divide, or not we, but this is the way that the powers that be divide and conquer Bitcoin and start you know, pushing it in the direction of their own cryptocurrency that they want to support, that they have the majority of the control over, weakening, you know, the one that I'd say that there's a more distributed number of people across the world who are supporting. So we have this tweet over here, and this is, and so let's just read this over here from Slush. So I would be okay with chain more accumulated work is the BTC narrative, only if I wouldn't know about the mining centralization problems. Right, so if you didn't know about the mining centralization problems, then you would support that sort of idea that whoever has more work is the BTC. But as we just discussed, because BTC has so much centralization of the mining power, Ethereum too for that matter, but Ethereum is being pivoted to the proof of stake, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of concerns about proof of stake. But one of the benefits, allegedly, as you see from the Ethereum FAQ on GitHub about the proof of stake, is that as there's more folks who are proof of staking it, it dramatically decreases the ability of a 51% attack, and dramatically decreases the amount of centralization that these mining companies have right now. I think there's basically 5 or 6 major mining pools and mining companies that are that, you know, mine for Bitcoin, and there's probably about, you know, 3 or 4 for Ethereum. And so Bitcoin, we have this case, and so we have to be aware of that. So he goes on to say that aside from what Core wants, I don't see an urgency and wide community agreement for an upgrade. Rule number 1, in case of doubt, follow the current rules. So again, you know, it seems, you know, where's the chaos? Who's benefiting from the chaos? Who's creating the divide? And who's bringing people together? And so the way that we destroy cryptocurrency is by dividing it and conquering it. And so each time we can split the cryptocurrency, I'm not sure if this is like a Voldemort Horcrux sort of analogy, but each time we can split the Bitcoin blockchain, and each time we can create more confusion and divide the communities, each time that weakens Bitcoin, that gives life to the powers that be to keep their control over the blockchain space. You know, and you know, our analysis of that situation. So you can continue reading all these comments that are on these tweets. Sometimes it gets really interesting. Sometimes it gets really hilarious. Definitely for fun for you. And so in response to the Xapo blog, then you have people, getting really upset that Xapo, that they're gonna take a different version of Bitcoin, the SegWit2x version, and they're gonna, already have the roadmap to call that SegWit2x version the real Bitcoin. And so Xapo is, this quote unquote wallet in the iOS and Android app store. When you search for Bitcoin or Bitcoin wallet, they come up. And so people are going to Xapo now and saying that Xapo isn't a Bitcoin wallet, and that Xapo has published its plans to launch a new competing currency, being the SegWit2x, and promote it to its users instead of promoting Bitcoin. And that, this person goes on to say that Xapo will actively try to confuse you about which coin Bitcoin is, which coin is which, and that don't use Xapo for your Bitcoins since it's too dangerous. Use a real Bitcoin wallet like Bread Wallet or Green Address. I've heard good things about Bread Wallet and Green Address. I've heard good and bad things about Jax. At the end of the day, I definitely recommend that you get a Trezor or a Ledger Nano S or maybe even a Keep Key. But for daily, transactions, check out the Bread Wallet as an option, Green Address as an option, Jax, excuse me. But you definitely got to make sure that you have, you don't have compromised access to your computer, because if the ways typically these types of wallets work, that if someone has access to your cell phone or your computer, they would have access to your Bitcoin wallet. And so that's a disadvantage of, some of these simpler wallets that are currently in some ways easier to use. But that's what's going on about Xapo. So I'm not sure, maybe you want to go, if you're pro Xapo and pro SegWit2x, maybe you want to go to the App Store, Android store and say something positive. But if you're pro Bitcoin BTC with the current 1 megabyte and, you're worried about the replay protection issues and the different issues of the SegWit2x, maybe you want to, just have that voice heard with Xapo, because we definitely don't want to confuse. Can you imagine having 5 Bitcoins in your Xapo wallet and then Xapo pivoting to the SegWit2x as the main wallet, and then, years later or something, finding out, that you got screwed if you were just holding your wallet in that address for some time? I mean, there's so many different ways this could go down. A little confusing. And just so then continuing on, we have people continuing to express their disdain, saying that we don't need you, Xapo. I hope I'm saying their name right. And so people cutting up their Xapo debit cards. Because people are really upset about this this pivot to the SegWit2x coin that they're going to be moving forward with, in conjunction with the miners who are probably going to give the SegWit2x the majority of the hash rate. Definitely a dangerous situation. All right, and so pivoting into the news, let's talk about Russia. Let's talk about Vladimir Putin. So a lot of us have probably been hearing about how Putin is going to want to ban Bitcoin or ban cryptocurrency, and I'm not seeing it. I keep on hearing it, but I'm not seeing it. And we're going to talk about what we are seeing, and we're going to talk about what we're not seeing, because for some reason there's some major confusion going on over here. And I want to let you guys know what makes sense to us based on what we're reading and what we have seen in the past. And so the president of the Russian Federation, otherwise known as Vladimir Putin, held a meeting Tuesday to discuss cryptocurrencies. And so this meeting was attended by all the top regulators in Russia, including the central bank governor, her deputy, the finance minister. And while Putin did acknowledge the risks associated with cryptocurrencies, he stressed the importance to not build up unnecessary barriers, as is quoted here, to not build up unnecessary barriers for new technologies. So, this meeting again with all of these major players for the nation of Russia, we're at this meeting with Putin, and Putin is quoted on as he addressed his colleagues to say that today I propose addressing a topic that is relevant not only for our country, not only for Russia, but it is probably becoming relevant also for the rest of the world. And then Putin went on to continue to say that I am referring to the introducing digital currencies, digital technology, in the financial banking sphere and using innovative financial instruments. And so Putin was outlining the risks of cryptocurrencies, and he gets quoted here as saying, as is known, virtual currencies, also known as cryptocurrencies, are becoming or have already become very popular, he began. In certain countries, he went on to say, they are becoming or have already become legal tender, as well as an investment asset. And so Putin goes on to add, I would like to draw your attention to the need to use the advantages that are offered by new technological solutions in the banking sphere. And then touched upon the risks by saying that the use of cryptocurrencies also carries serious risks. I know the central bank's position. I have discussed this topic with the governor on several occasions. And then he went on to elaborate. First and foremost, this is an opportunity for laundering illegal gains, tax evasion, and even financing of terrorism, not to mention the proliferation of scams to which ordinary people can fall victim. Cryptocurrencies are issued by an unrestricted circle of anonymous entities. Therefore, buyers of cryptocurrencies may be involved in illegal activities. And so it's definitely interesting that, you know, he is recognizing all of the negative effects of cryptocurrency, of blockchain technologies. He is definitely listening to what the banking institutions across the world, what the banking regulators within his own country are saying about Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And then you know, in this speech, he's directly addressing those concerns, directly acknowledging those concerns, and he's not saying that you know, to ignore this. He's saying that this is very real, and he's recognizing it. And because of that, they're, you know, I'm sure they're going to address the ability for them to control, for them to regulate, for them to not let this, you know, go to hell in a handbasket, right? They want to have some sort of regulation over where this goes and how this goes through their nation, because this isn't just, as he said, this isn't just a concern for Russia, but this is a concern and of interest for the entire world. And so Putin goes on to emphasize the lack of security and the lack of, essentially the lack of regulation, by saying that if the system breaks down or stays trendy, or if there's a bubble, then there's going to be no legal entity responsible for the risks that go up with the high increases and then the possible collapses of money going into the market, especially when there's people in the middle, you know, who could be scamming people or tricking people into things that aren't necessarily Bitcoin, right? Saying just send me your money for this, and then people being duped out of their Bitcoin. All sorts of risks that do exist, but you know, governments want to take that responsibility away from people educating themselves, and they want to have more control is typically what we see. So, but the point here is that even though Putin goes on to acknowledge the risks and to acknowledge the detriments that blockchain technology can cause and that the regulators are seeing, Putin goes on to direct these folks to say, do not create unnecessary barriers. He went on to emphasize the need for regulations, saying that we need, based on international experience, to build a regulatory environment that will make it possible to codify relations in this sphere, reliably protect the interests of citizens, businesses, and the state, and provide legal guarantees for the innovative, for using innovative financial instruments. And to that end, Putin emphasized it is important not only to create, it is important not to create unnecessary barriers, of course, but rather to provide essential conditions for advancing and upgrading the national financial system. So as we've seen in previous videos, in June, Putin met with the Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin and briefly discussed the possibility of using Ethereum within the Russian government. They even created sort of a Ethereum Russia, which was disconnected central organization for the education of Ethereum for Russian institutions, educational institutions, government institutions, corporate institutions, to teach them about the benefits of Ethereum. From those meetings that Putin has had with Vitalik, we know that Putin is interested in creating Moscow or St. Petersburg to be essentially the Silicon Valley of blockchain technology. Putin is keeping a close eye on the regulations that are happening in America and other places across the world. And Putin is, I believe, recognizing that those regulations are restricting the ability for those technologies to thrive in those areas of the world. And Putin does not want to shut off the development, shut off the investment, shut off the technological innovation, of which, if that gets focused in Russia, is going to give Russia a significant competitive advantage over all the developers, all the companies, all the technologies that are being developed in their part of the woods, just as the United States has benefited from Silicon Valley being located in, Silicon Valley, in the San Francisco Bay Area, stretching out to the New York City area, stretching out to Austin and to Miami. And now we know that with this new millennia, with this new industrial order, with the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, Russia wants to be that center. Dubai wants to be that center. People in America want America to be that center. But, we just are in the midst of all this regulation that it's really not making it a viable place where people want to have these conferences, where people want to start these companies. People seek to not be in America because of the restrictive rules and the long arm of the law that they don't necessarily want to be under full control over because of how the regulators and the politicians are going after blockchain technology, especially in the state of New York, especially in the state of Hawaii, especially in the state of Washington. Things are not looking good for anyone who lives in those three states. And we want to see things get better for everybody in this country so that blockchain technology can thrive. And what we see here coming from Putin is that while there's definitely risks with Bitcoin and blockchain technologies, he does not want to restrict cryptocurrency in Russia. So I thought it was really interesting that this article goes on to say that that the prime minister says that Putin understands that high tech and the digital economy spur growth rates. And then he added that, and check this out, he added that it's not an overstatement to say that the president is passionately fond of it. And when he says of it, I'm assuming he's talking about the digital economy and cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. And it's just a really interesting choice of words. So it's not an overstatement to say the president is passionately fond of it. Let me tell you, it's not an overstatement to say that I'm passionately fond of it. I am like beyond passionately fond of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I think most of you guys listening to this YouTube station or anyone looking into cryptocurrency and realizes what they've stumbled across is beyond passionately fond of it. I think Putin has been totally bit by the cryptocurrency bug and wants Russia to be the center of this revolution, which he knows is going to moon and is going to affect everybody. In addition to affecting everybody, he wants that center to be Russia. He wants Russia to be in the center of this, and he wants this to for Russia's greatness to sort of stand on. Well, what's interesting is that while we see articles like this, there's other articles that sort of take a different road. And so we have this article at Cointelegraph, which I think is not a good article. And it says Putin condemns Bitcoin, calls for a Russia ban of digital currencies. I don't know what this article is talking about. I don't know where this person is getting their information, but if you read this, if you just go by the headline, then you're just going to report, oh, that's what the headline says. But if you actually read the article, that's there's nothing inside this article that supports what the headline is saying. And it just is frustrating and frankly a little ridiculous. So what are the quotes they have here? They have Putin quoted as saying that Bitcoin creates opportunities to launder funds acquired through criminal activities, tax evasion, terrorist financing, as well as spreading of fraud schemes. And so that's not saying they're going to ban
Bitcoin, you know, that implies that they're going to regulate Bitcoin. It doesn't say anything about banning. It's just saying that there's opportunities for bad things to happen. There's opportunities for bad things to happen because of Twitter, right? It doesn't say anything about banning. And so after Putin blamed a host of Russia's criminal problems on Bitcoin, I don't think he blamed the problems on Bitcoin. I think that he said that they're possible through Bitcoin, as we just saw in the previous article, that actually I thought was a lot better. So he goes on to say that we have seen how Bitcoin has transformed a payment unit into an asset, which is bought in order to obtain a high yield in a short time. This is the definition of a pyramid. So Bitcoin has transformed a payment unit into an asset. This is the definition of a pyramid. Okay, and so him saying this is the definition of a pyramid, again, there's nothing in here about banning Bitcoin. There's nothing in here about banning anything. This barely talks about regulation. This all implies regulation. And so just my point of bringing this up to you, even this other quote from the finance minister, it says there's no sense banning digital currencies. There's a need to regulate them. So this article, the headline is saying Putin is calling for a ban. And then there's no information in this article that supports what the headline is saying. This is just a horrible article. And I don't know what this author thinks they're doing, but it's articles like this that are doing a massive disservice. And yeah, it's like, what is the agenda? Is this just a headline to help get clicks? Is this a headline to help, I don't know, decrease the price, to manipulate the price of Bitcoin? It's like this article has had over 807 shares where everyone is reading, you know, all the friends of those people that shared this is saying Putin condemns Bitcoin, calls for Russia ban of digital currencies. There's nothing in this article that says that. So, all right, I'm gonna stop talking about that. It's just really frustrating, and this is why we actually read these articles. And so thanks for sticking around as we go through this news that we like to talk about. Okay, last but not least, just wanted to just go over a couple definitions. I thought this was fun that there were a couple of CEOs that were trying to define blockchain. We had one CEO that sort of failed miserably, and then we have a couple other CEOs, and so I'm going to read their two different definitions of what blockchain is, since we're at a part of the world where these regulators and governments are trying to define what blockchain is, define what delivery is, define what a transaction is. And even though we sort of know what that means, it's really difficult for these companies and these regulators and these government institutions to create legal definitions over what this stuff is. And so these CEOs, the first explanation of what blockchain is from Goodwin Gaw at Gaw Capital Partners says that blockchain is just a new way for someone to sell something to another person or to a lot of people, bypassing all the middlemen. So blockchain is a new way to sell things without middlemen. So that seems good. And then this other quote here from Brendan Blummer, CEO of Block One, says that if the internet was a mass scalable, insecure data transfer, that blockchain is a mass scalable, secure data transfer. And yeah, that also sort of fits, right? We were able to send lots of communications to lots of people with the internet, and now we can do the same thing, but we can secure the validity of where that information is coming from, and also where that information is going to. That's why they call this Internet 2.0 or maybe Internet 3.0. Definitely interesting. So with all that being said, this was a lot of fun. There was a lot here that we were able to go over and that we were able to talk about. So much in the news and so much that we're seeing in the news from all different levels of news and media outlets. It's really showing us at this end how Bitcoin, blockchain technologies, and cryptocurrencies are going mainstream. It's really interesting how often and how quickly these cryptocurrency wallets are selling out. And it's really interesting to realize how high Bitcoin could go, especially with all of these traders getting involved, with all the mainstream attention getting involved, with all the banks getting involved, with all of these new financial vehicles and instruments getting involved, like the Bitcoin futures or like the Ethereum Classic ETFs or this new Ether-ETN. There's a lot happening. There's a lot going on, and I really enjoy learning about this information, bringing this information to you, and then sharing feedback with each other. And if you'd be interested, consider going to mintingcoins.com, making an account, shooting me an email. If we're still in the early stages of the first early adopters of users who are joining us with our community, then we can bypass whatever the yearly or monthly user membership fee is, and just be part of the conversation. Just start sharing good information with each other and help advancing all of us. So when the moon starts to rise and we're all on the rocket ship, we can have as many of us there together as possible. So with that being said, thanks for sticking around. Like this video, comment this video, and I'm glad that together we are minting coins.